The new video is about why is lunging super effective with a riding horse. And to be honest, I use lunging a lot because it can help your horse to get balanced and to get to know her or his body a bit more without the weight of the rider. Riders always have a slight disbalance, unless you're like Charlotte Dujournal, but most of the riders aren't. So we all have our flaws when we are riding. And this isn't always beneficial when you're riding. It doesn't always help the horse. And lunging is always a nice thing to do something else with your horse other than riding. And you can gain a lot of muscle and balance and more structure in the training of your horse when you are lunging her. So here you see, I want her to go to trot and she is a bit stiff and stressed, and we don't want that. So mainly with lunging, I focus on relaxation. And this is some lunging gear you see very often. And I will show you why this isn't a great thing to use. You see it flapping around, and that's not what you want. Because the horse is now going behind the vertical because it gets pressure on the back. So it tries to get away from that pressure. And now you see me using my proper lunging gear. I have the resistance band from lastic, which you can follow on Instagram. And I use the side reins, which makes it possible for the horse to go all the way down and all the way up and to use and to see for itself where it is comfortable. And I don't make these side reins too tight because the horse also needs to relax. You don't want the horse to go behind the vertical when those side reins are too tight. And here you can see that she can go all the way down if she wants to. So she isn't forced into a position with her head. So this is really something to remember. So also if you see your horse walking or moving behind the vertical, you know that the horse does this by itself and isn't forced to do this by the side reins. And first, when I start lunging, I just want her to be relaxed. Because this is a 5-gaited horse who had some problems with walking. You see here, she just hears something, she gets tense, and she moves on to trot. And I decide to let her trot to become relaxed again, because she also has a lot of energy. You see here that she uses her body, but it's still a bit tense. She moves into my space, my personal space, and I move her to the outside. And I tell her that this is my space and not hers. And then I'll want to go to trot again. You see that the transition to trot is a bit stiff and tense. And we don't want that. We just want her to be relaxed. And you see when I want to get her back to walk, she does that. And then she relaxes again. And what we want in walk is that she stretches her whole back. And she really gets a loose back and uses it correctly. And the transition to trot is better now. But what we also want in trot is that she goes a little bit downwards in position and lifts her back a bit and relaxes and stretches it. because this is very difficult for her to do with a rider on her back. So we use this in training with lunging because it's easier for her then. And I mostly lunge her without a lunging line because she stays on a circle anyway. And I think that the connection without a lunging line can be even nicer because you don't pull your horse on a circle, it does it itself, and there's no force from the outside. You see that she just wants to trot around me, and I make transitions from trot to walk and standing still. And I use my body to get her on the other rein. And in this way, she is really focused on what I want from her. And this is nice with horses. If they are really focused on what their rider or just their owner wants from them, it's more easier to lunge them. And I also train her canter with lunging because it's fairly good when I ride her, but when I lunge her, it can be quite difficult because she doesn't get in the good flow. So I train that a lot with her. So what I want her to do is to slow a bit down in trot, but remain in trot. So I have different uh, aids and voice aids. So I have a voice aid to slow down and make a transition to a slower gait. So from canter to trot and from trot to walk. And I have a voice aid um, to slow her down in the gait itself. And this is the voice aid rustig. And I use a very steady voice and a slow voice so she knows I'm relaxed too. And she can relax easier. So I also use it when I'm riding her. Um, and you can use it in English with easy and then oh for going back to another slower gait. And now her trot gets more relaxed and now she is stretching her back. So this is what we were looking for in the beginning. But sometimes horses need a little bit of time before they are really relaxed and can do what you are asking from them. And I also want her to have a good clear beat trot that is just really um, flowy. And that's also a thing you can train with lunging. And then canter her again. And you see here that she has a lot more balance in trot than she has in canter. And this is something we can train with lunging her. So she can just look for her own balance without me on her back. And when she has a better balance, when she is lunged and totally on her own, she has a better balance when I'm riding her. Oh, and there she scared from something, and then she is relaxed again. And that's what you are looking for. When a horse is scared of just sees something or rares, the next thing you want to do is go back to that relaxation again. And now you see that she is just relaxing and just walking around. And that's what you want with lunging, that it's becoming quite normal. And they are just relaxed in this low position. And that stretching their back isn't something you do when you are training very intense, but it is something the horse does when they are relaxed. And if you get this in your training, you can also ask more energy and um, more collection because the back is stretched and has also more muscle. So you can just use the back more intensively. And you see that she's stretching her back. And because of the band, the resistance band around her back, her hind legs are really doing a good job as well. And they are very active. So that is something you could really train with this band because it encourages the horse to use their hind legs more, but it doesn't force the horse. So it can choose itself if it wants to cooperate with it or not. And we all know that good position comes from the hind legs. And this is also something you see when I lunge her, that her hind legs are very active and there isn't really pressure on the side reins. So you can really see that the position that she has here comes from behind and not comes um, because I made the side reins very short and there's a lot of pressure on them. That's not the case here. So that is also something that you really have to look for when you are lunging yourself. And be very critical about it. Is this a correct position? Is your horse moving like it should? And now I'm going to make a bit of an upgrade to the lunging gear, and this is something I would only recommend for ridden horses that are ridden on a certain level because this can be quite difficult for horses. And if they aren't used to using their back correctly, they will be very, very sore after this. So you have to begin lunging and don't make the band too tight in the beginning. And building this up is a real process. So go slow and easy on that. And don't expect that your horse immediately would walk with a super nice and relaxed back. This is something you need to train. And this band is encouraging the muscles in the belly to lift the back. So now you want collection instead of stretching and having a long form. And I also make the side reins a bit higher. And I also check if the side reins aren't too tight, because I want her to remain on the vertical and not behind. So with the side reins, the position of the side reins, I ask the horse to have a bit higher position or a lower position. But again, this is not forcing your horse, this is only encouraging. Because you can see she can just eat super well and there is not a lot of tension to them. So again, if you see the horse in the good position, this comes from the hind legs and not from forcing your horse with the side reins. And you have to check that the side reins, of course, are the same length, because otherwise you will get a horse like a banana, because it will be trained a lot uh, on the right side and not on the left side. And you want this training to be equal, because you want a straight horse and not a banana horse. When I make alterations to the lunging equipment, I always walk her a while, because she also has to adapt to these new adaptations. And she comes a lot in my personal space, so I want her to move to the side. Because this is my personal space and not hers. And what I will do with this gear is ask her to slow down and canter, and from canter to go to trot, and trot in a higher tempo trot, and then go to a lower speed of trot, and then going to a higher speed trot again, so she uses her hind legs. And you can see that the canter was better, um, because she is encouraged to use her belly muscles more, and then her canter gets better. So sometimes less is more, but sometimes more is more. So you have to see that for yourself, um, on what your horse reacts the best. And it's a really good workout for horses to do this, because it's quite intense, um, to use your body like this. Because if you do one round of this pressure you use is constant. And when you are riding, um, you can never have such constant circles in this position. So this can be quite intense for your horse. So be wary of that. So here you see her relaxed trot and her quite slow trot again. And then I want to make a change to a bigger trot, like more show trot, on a higher tempo. So, and also reward your horse if the horse does what you want, because it has to know it does a good job. And then I wanted her to slow down again. So what I did in trot was constantly tempo changing. And it's not a shame if your horse can't do a full round of canter. This is something that will develop if you lunge more. Now she goes to walk again, and that's not what I want. And I don't want her to change rein, so I make this clear to her. But also the transitions to canter and back are a really nice way to train your horse. Now I want it to go faster, and you can of course use a whip for that, but I personally use a lot more of voice aids. But you don't hear them because it was so windy outside that I just um, deleted all the audio files. And now she's done, and I'm satisfied with the result because she was relaxed and she um, she stretched her back and she had a nice position. So yeah, she's done with her training. So I hope you found this video very helpful, and I hope you will um, also use this system for lunging your horse. And maybe you will see the value of lunging, because I know some Icelandic horse riders that don't ever lunge, but I think it's quite a nice way to train your horse. And I, of course, pet her because she did a good job, and your horse has to know if it does something good or bad, because your horse doesn't know instantly if what he or she is doing is good and is the behavior you are looking for. So thank you for watching this video.